Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about 10 signs that you are dating somebody who's secure, or basically 10 pillars of what creates a secure person and things to look for in the evolution of the dating phase of a relationship as different conversations come up, as different questions come up of, how somebody approaches things, what their fears are, all these different dynamics. So we're going to go through them in this video. We are still doing our with you promotion as long as there's any uncertainty happening in the world at this time. It's for 25% off our 3, 6, or 12-month membership bundles for like the all access membership pass, as well as single course purchases, as well as any course bundles for like the attachment style bundle, things like that on the Personal Development School. And that if you purchase the all access pass, it gives you access to everything. So there's a money back guarantee. And it comes with our attachment style coaches who run 6 live events per week over Zoom video that you can connect with other like-minded people. They'll go through different like parts of the courses, belief reprogramming exercises, morning and evening routines, socials where you have deep conversations and do a deep dive into some of the content. And then on top of that, I do 4 live calls every single week with our students. And we also have 40 plus courses on the platform that are all about 3 or so hours in length. And they also come with a 25 or so page workbook. And then we also have a webinar library of like 200 plus webinars on a whole bunch of different topics. So it is like a whole ecosystem in there now. And feel free to check it out. And if you're not over the moon with it, we have a money back guarantee that's available for everybody. So let's talk about this component. So how can you find if you have a secure partner? How can you tell in the early stages? Well, there are certain things that create a secure relationship. And the very first one I want to start with is honesty. And this is somebody who's willing to say how they're feeling, what they're afraid of. They're willing to be open and transparent if you ask them questions. And this is a good sign that brings us to our second sign, because if somebody's honest, they usually also are trusting. And the more honest and trusting a person is, often there's a major correlation with that person also being trustworthy. So trust is our second huge component. This is not mutually exclusive to being cautious. You are allowed to and supposed to look for red flags, ask the tough questions, not just have like blinders on and trust blindly. You're supposed to look into things. And the whole reason we have a dating phase of a relationship in the first place is because it's our vetting phase. It's our time to assess, is somebody a good fit? Are there red flags I should be aware of? So I don't mean like trust blindly at the expense of yourself. I just mean there is space and room to trust. And for those of you who, especially like fearful avoidance, dismissive avoidance as well, who struggle with any trust, I have an amazing course that's all about reprogramming your internal subconscious trust baseline if you feel like it's been fragmented or shattered. So there's a course called Rebuilding Trust and Overcoming Jealousy inside of the school that I recommend you check out if that's a big struggle for you, because it's such a necessary and important part of a healthy and thriving and secure relationship. And so seeing that somebody else acts that way is important to look out for. Number 3, a really important one, is the ability to be vulnerable. So this kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with the first two, but the ability to open up, to share, to express, to share their history, to say what's going on inside of them, and be able to navigate themselves in that way, to be able to share that with you. So it's a very important part. And the reason vulnerability really matters is because vulnerability is what takes feelings or infatuation and turns it into love. If we don't learn to be vulnerable and there isn't a two-way street of vulnerability, it's very difficult to get out of liking somebody and being infatuated with them romantically and actually deepen the relationships and build deeper roots that eventually turn into love long term. Okay. We're on number 5. So number 5 is somebody's ability to communicate. Okay. And when somebody is actively able to communicate, sorry, this is number 4. I just realized. Number 4, ability to communicate. When somebody is actively able to communicate in a healthy manner, what happens from this is how you work through problems. Like part of building a healthy relationship and maintaining a healthy relationship is being able to have the tough conversations and work through things. Okay. Now, without communication, without vulnerability, it's hard to work through things because nobody's going to, show their hand. Nobody's even going to play the game of communicating, of opening up to really move things into a progressive way. And a huge and important part of any relationship dynamic is things are going to come up. People who say like, oh, we never fight. To me, I hear you never address things deeply. Maybe if you said we have disagreements, but we do disagreements or we do fighting in a really healthy way, beautiful. That's what we're looking for. Okay. But the absence of that can create a lot of major challenges. Okay. So it's really important to be able to communicate. Now we have number 5. Number 5 is the ability to set boundaries. Okay. So what does that mean? And why does that matter? Boundaries are a vulnerable expression of yourself. It's letting somebody know where you end and somebody else begins. And if you don't have some kind of framework set up where you say, this is okay for me and this is not okay for me, your partner in a relationship or the partner that you're maybe seeing, if they are secure and you're wondering, if that person seems boundaryless, number 1, they're going to have resentment. Number 2, they're not showing you who they are. They're not saying, hey, this is me. This is what I'm okay with. This is this is what I'm not okay with. They're hiding a part of themselves. And so boundaries are an important, vulnerable component of self-expression, but also of not, you know, depleting or abandoning the sense of self just to try to gain favor or praise or approval from somebody else, which leads us to that people pleasing dynamic. And that's a sign if somebody's really stuck in people pleasing, it's a sign that there's some work to do there. And we have a really in-depth boundaries course, it all about how to identify your boundaries, set them, know what they are in real time, how they show up in all the different areas of life, and also the different types of boundaries that exist. There's 6 major types of boundaries that you want to be able to navigate. And until you know that part of yourself, that is also something that will prevent you from having a secure relationship. Now we have number 6, and this is forgiveness. Okay. Forgiveness is a huge part of our relationships. And the reason for this is that if we don't have forgiveness, the place that we're in instead is resentment. And the more resentment and the more full our resentment tank becomes in a relationship with somebody else, the more challenges we're going to have, the more stuff we're going to run into. And the more we are going to start acting out and rebelling against that person that we have the resentment towards. And a part of how we heal from that and practice forgiveness. So this doesn't mean that somebody's forgiving again, like to the point of like letting somebody walk all over them. We can forgive people completely, but still say, you know what, this is not a healthy person for my life, but I'm not going to harbor any ill will towards them or resentment towards them. I'm going to do that internal work so I feel whole, I feel good, I can move on. Or it can also be that you have a relationship dynamic and people are going to make mistakes sometimes. People are going to say or do the wrong thing. People are going to have lapses in judgment from time to time. And so we have to have a healthy relationship to the idea of forgiveness in order to effectively navigate a relationship, period. And I've got a course about that too, how to release resentment and truly forgive, not like intellectually forgive, where you're just going, oh yeah, like it's fine, but it's not, and you're still harboring it. I mean, like at the emotional level in your body, pour this stuff out, release it, get over it, move beyond it. And that's through a whole bunch of reprogramming tools, but it's also through self-expression, understanding, sometimes having those tough conversations with people. It's a very, very important dynamic as a whole. And this brings us to number 7. And number 7 is the ability to understand our own needs. And if we don't understand our own needs, how can we ever properly or effectively express them to others and thus get them met? So a huge part of seeing somebody secure is, do they set their boundaries? Do they say their needs? Do they speak up for, hey, I am a words of affirmation type of guy, or I'm a physical affection type of woman, or like whatever it is, right? Are you expressing what you need? Are you clear? Okay. This is hugely, hugely important. And this brings me to number 8. And number 8 is the ability to work on oneself. I don't necessarily mean that somebody has to be like doing like therapy, doing personal development school courses, doing, reading all these books and journaling for hours. Like, I just mean that somebody's willing in a dynamic and really any of the 7 areas of life to practice growth. And I mean, like, to reflect, to take accountability, responsibility for things, which is really our number 9, but to be able to look at oneself and work on things that are not working, break old habits, reprogram old patterns. It doesn't even have to be in such a deep way, but just be able and willing to show up differently and to reflect on oneself and to hear, feedback from other people and to put work in to the person themselves. Okay. This brings us to number 9, which is accountability and responsibility. This is huge. Do you see the person you're dating or getting to know? Do they take responsibility and accountability for their lives? If they're always blaming other people, they're giving their power to everybody and saying, it's never my fault. There's nothing I can learn from or grow from. And I'm just a victim. And I don't mean that people aren't victimized, because people can be the victims, but we have to be able to take accountability for our own lives. Even after bad stuff has happened, that's when we need to do that and honor ourselves the most. We have to be able to go, okay, I went through a lot. I went through pain and suffering. And because of that, if I don't take responsibility for myself, I have a really tough road ahead. But if I take responsibility and I do whatever I can to bounce back from this, and I'm accountable for any role that I play in anything that causes my own suffering, as much as humanly possible, then I have a lighter road ahead. Then I have an easier road ahead, a better path ahead as a whole. And so this is extremely, extremely important. And number 10 is somebody who can practice love and compassion towards themselves. Relationships are mirrors, and there's a direct relationship between somebody's ability to be kind to themselves, care for themselves, look out for themselves, take time to process their own emotions, feelings, and be gentle to themselves and forgiving of themselves and compassionate in different dynamics. And there's a mirror and a relationship between us being able to do that for ourselves and then being able to do that for somebody else. There is a direct relationship or correlation between the two. So if somebody's harsh and critical and mean to themselves and beats themselves up and doesn't take care of themselves, you can bet that is what you're going to eventually see in a relationship dynamic with that person. So it's something really important to become aware of. So those are 10 major ones. We could go on a huge list about so many more, but I thought those were 10 really worth discussing. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you. Let me know any other questions you have in the comments below or anything else you want to see more about this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a member of this channel and subscribing. I'm so happy you're a part of our community, and I will see you in the next video.